You won't believe what Jane Kilcher just revealed. After years of keeping it all in, she's finally spoken out about her marriage to Atz Lee, and trust me, it's nothing like we imagined. For years, the fans thought they had the perfect couple on TV. Jane and Atz Lee Kilcher, the rugged Alaskan duo, building a life together on the frontier. But behind the smiles and the cameras, things weren't as rosy as they seemed. Today, Jane breaks her silence, revealing the truth that will change everything you thought you knew about their story. Jane Kilcher and Atz Lee seemed like the perfect pair, living off the land in the wilds of Alaska. Before the fame, before the cameras rolled, it was just Jane and Atz Lee, two small-town Alaskans leading different lives until fate brought them back together. Jane, a sharp and hardworking woman with a nursing background, never imagined she'd trade city life for a rugged homestead. Atz Lee, a descendant of longtime homesteaders, was already living a life most of us can't even fathom. One where survival means building your shelter, hunting your food, and braving extreme winters without modern comforts. When Discovery's Alaska, the last frontier, began, Jane stayed in the background, letting her husband take center stage. But viewers quickly noticed her, the strong, witty, and fearless woman who didn't just survive in Alaska, she thrived. She worked hard, built, fished in freezing waters, and tackled each day with a sharp sense of humor that made her a fan favorite. But what fans didn't see was how Jane protected her children from the harsh glare of the spotlight. She kept her kids out of the cameras as much as possible because, as she said, they deserved privacy. Behind the scenes, the cracks began to form. It wasn't overnight, but slowly the strong front they put up for the world began to fracture. Atz Lee had a near-death experience when he fell 40 feet while hiking in 2015. His injuries were catastrophic, and it would take months for him to recover. Jane stood by his side through it all, balancing family, work, and her own grief. But as Atz Lee healed physically, he became more distant. He withdrew from the homestead and from Jane. He spent more time alone in the woods, working on projects by himself. Jane, on the other hand, continued to manage everything, raising their daughter, keeping the homestead running, and still filming for the show. It wasn't easy, but she kept going. She brushed it off, telling herself that it was just a phase. But as time passed, she began to feel the emotional toll of being in a relationship where she was doing everything on her own. What followed were long months of trying to reconnect. They went to therapy, had deep talks, but it became clear that they wanted different things. Atz Lee wanted space and Jane needed partnership. The emotional gap between them widened. On screen, they still worked together, but the spark was gone. Their marriage was becoming more like a routine than a loving partnership. It wasn't one big event that ended things. It was years of silence, distance, and unspoken words. When their divorce became public, it wasn't a huge shock to anyone who had been watching closely. The signs were there. Jane, still dedicated to her family and work, remained kind when fans asked about the split. She never spoke badly of Atz Lee. Instead, she chose to focus on healing, protecting her children, and moving forward. In 2023, Jane posted a simple yet heart-wrenching message on social media. Here we go. Atz Lee is divorcing me and it's very unfortunate, but I cannot control it. Lost my best friend and it hurts. But I guess that is life. The words were blunt, but full of sorrow, a quiet acceptance that things had changed forever. Even as her marriage ended, Jane showed strength. She defended her family from online trolls and focused on what mattered most: her kids, her healing, and finding peace. Her journey became about reclaiming her life. She started fishing again, not for the show, but because it brought her joy. As time passed, Jane found herself again. She spent more time with her daughter, Piper, who was growing into her own person, and Etienne, Atz Lee's son from a previous relationship, who was now an adult. Jane kept a low profile online, only sharing glimpses of her life when she felt like it. Slowly, her spark returned. Not because she was trying to prove anything to anyone, but because she was living her life on her terms. She didn't need anyone to validate her. She had learned that peace comes when you stop trying to hold on to things that no longer serve you. The biggest challenge was learning to let go, not just of Atz Lee, but of the life she thought she would have. The public pressure, the expectations, the constant balancing act of being a mother, a wife, and a reality star, all of that weighed on Jane for so long. But now she was finally free from the burden of living someone else's idea of success. After the divorce, Jane's life began to change in ways she hadn't expected. She started sharing more about her journey of personal growth. She spoke about mental health, burnout, and the importance of letting go when something is no longer working. She shared stories that resonated with women everywhere, especially those who had stayed in difficult relationships for the sake of their families. Jane became a symbol of quiet strength. She showed that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, not in anger or bitterness, but with grace. And then, just when it seemed like Jane might slip out of the public eye for good, she posted a simple, powerful message. "I don't need a man. I need peace, fish, and a few close people who get me." This wasn't just a funny post, it was a declaration of independence. Jane had come full circle, from a woman trying to hold everything together to someone who had found peace within herself. Jane Kilcher's journey wasn't just about surviving Alaska or navigating a rocky marriage. It was about reclaiming herself. It's a reminder that even after loss, there's a path forward. Jane didn't just move on from her marriage, she moved on to a life that was hers and hers alone. Want to see more stories like Jane's? Hit the subscribe button and check out the next video on your screen.